IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode on the Musafir Stories. Hope all of you are staying safe and staying well in these unprecedented times. Before we get on with today's episode, a quick shout out to some of our listeners who've been writing into us with feedback. Karthik, Mansi, Priyanshi, Divya, Hari, Nikhil, Edward, Vineet, and Ashwini. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Keep listening and hope you enjoy the upcoming episodes. And as far as today's episode goes, we have with us Girish Shivakumar, a clean tech evangelist who has some really interesting travel tidbits to share with us. So let's jump onto the episode and find out more. So with that introduction, we'd like to welcome a very special guest on the podcast, a clean tech evangelist and a fellow podcaster and host of Mission Shunya, Girish Shivakumar, to the podcast.
Hi Girish, welcome to the Musafir Stories.
Hello, Faizan Saif. Really happy and excited to be part of the Musafir Stories episode. So really grateful for that. So thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's our pleasure to have someone like you on our podcast because, hats up to all your work.
Not only is Girish the host of Mission Shunya podcast, we'll speak a little bit more about that during the course of the episode, but Girish also is one of the young leaders, Economic Times Young Leaders of 2019.
Yes.
So very glad to have you, Girish, and talk a little bit more about your work. But before we get into or deep dive into the podcast, why don't you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Thanks, Saif. So I generally call myself a clean tech evangelist, and on a personal mission or mission Shunya that I call, to work towards a zero carbon economy. So be it solar projects, renewable projects that have zero carbon impact, or electric vehicles that have zero emissions, or a circular economy. And all this kind of sounds a cliche word these days, but this is something I picked up right from an early age, or because I started cycling and like everyone else, and I never left cycling. So cycling has been a constant in my life. And after that, I got opportunity to join a renewable energy company after I did my bachelor's. Once I got in there, I kind of really liked the job that we were doing and this entire sector. So right from there, solar, energy, electric vehicles, and all kind of interested me. And it's been close to 8 years now I have been in this space, and really enjoyed working on multiple projects across India. During this journey, I also realized that people generally are excited to know that renewable energy is something new, something fancy, but there is some bit of misconceptions. There are myths in the sector. So I kind of said like, okay, let me create a platform where I can dispel all the myths, get people to talk about it in a more candid way. So that's when I started podcasting, and that's how Mission Shunya was launched. And that's how I try to keep Mission Shunya as. So I get people who are really passionate about clean tech, who are doing interesting work, also get industry leaders on the show and talk about all that's happening in the sector, be it energy, be it waste disposal, e-waste disposal, or someone who wants to set up a solar project, anything. So if anyone's doing something interesting, I make sure I feature them on the podcast.
So with that in mind, what we thought we'll do today, Girish, is perhaps discuss your tryst with clean energy and how that tryst or that journey has also kind of resulted in you traveling different parts of the country, right? And we're rightly calling that the power plant trail. So why don't you speak a little bit more to that?
Sure, Saif. As you rightly said, so youngsters these days are taking up activism, and they definitely want to make an impact in the space. Climate change is real. People are aware of that. People just want to have a positive impact. So looking back, when I was a kid, I never realized that I would end up doing this. But as a young kid who was taken around the country, for most of the Indians, South Indians especially, we go around the South Indian states. So that's where I used to go very often. And in a couple of such trips, you generally see some power projects. And luckily for me, as far as I remember, the first major trip that I undertook to Kanyakumari, I saw a lot of windmills. So windmills, massive windmills coming up during that coast. For anyone who's going to Kanyakumari, I would highly recommend that they drive towards Kanyakumari. So that drive towards Kanyakumari is like one of the best drives that you can ever have. I went there like close to 10-15 years back, but now if you go now, you will see a lot more windmills, and the windmills that are being installed today are even bigger than the ones that I saw in the first place. That was a wonderful sight. So that really got me excited, and of course then I went took photos under the windmills and stuff like that. So that was my first trust with, say, clean energy.
Is this the Mopandal wind farm that you're referring to, Girish? Is that the one on route Kanyakumari?
There are. That is one of the projects, but there are multiple projects right from Kaitar down up to Kanyakumari. There are multiple projects. Even in that belt, the Theni, Kaitar, and Kanyakumari belt is one of the India's most like high wind zone regions because of the peninsular effect. So that's where people tend to put high efficiency turbines, and that's where it really got kicked in. So Tamil Nadu, for example, is a leading wind producer. So a lot of industries that have presence across Tamil Nadu have invested in windmills so that they get power at a lower cost. There are some agreements called like wheeling and banking agreements and other things, so that the power that is generated in the wind zone is actually accounted for whatever you consume in any factory that you own in any part of Tamil Nadu.
Yeah, and just also calling out some numbers, right? Especially this government, the current government, after coming into power in 2014, it's also heavily invested in upping the quota of renewable energy, right? Do you want to highlight some of those numbers as well?
Yes, Saif. As you rightly said, the current government, after it came to power in the first term in 2014, has really taken up the renewable targets to a next level. So when I started my career in 2011, the target for solar was about like 20 gigawatt by 2020. That was the target. But since 2011 to 2014, multiple things happened globally. The cost of solar panels came down drastically because of overproduction in major countries like China, Europe, and that brought the cost of solar production very low. So this government, when it came down, realized, like, okay, the cost of producing power from renewable energy is like really low, and it's almost comparable, or at today it is all lower than thermal power projects. So they decided, let's set a higher target so that a lot of global investors are ready to come and invest in India and setting up the India's infrastructure projects. So that's when from 20 gigawatt, they said, let's do 175 gigawatt of renewable energy. That includes like 100 gigawatt of solar, 60 gigawatt of wind, and 15 gigawatt of other energy like bio, waste to energy, and so on. So this is the scale that's taken from 2014 to 2022. But interestingly, just recently, the government has made significant commitments because of the climate up. In the recent UN conference, the government said we would like to consider even increasing the 2022 target by a significant fold. Those numbers are not official, but if the rumors are to be true, like the comments made by ministers in public forums are to be true, they're saying like we might target like 400 gigawatt of clean power. Yeah. So we should wait for the official targets.
Yeah, targeting is good, but even overall, I think what they're looking at is about 500 gigawatts or 40% of the total capacity to be through renewable sources by 2030 is what I read. I probably have to confirm the sources of that, but it's a great thing that at least we've started thinking in the direction.
Yes.
So yeah, you were telling us about your first memories of like traveling to Kanyakumari is when you encountered your first windmills and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit more. What other places within India have you visited?
So I will talk about a couple of other places in Tamil Nadu. So the other place that we in Bangalore probably will go often is Ooty. So Ooty, Nilgiris is something that's an interesting place, or a most fascinating place for us. And especially in my family, there are a lot of people who are really interested. So I was fortunate to go to Nilgiris. And Nilgiris, there are small hydro projects around Nilgiris in the border between Kerala, Tamil Nadu border. People, when they go there, don't look at these places because if you go there, it clearly says like your access is restricted or something. But if you know someone who has been or lived there, like how my family lived there for quite quite some time, they kind of know which is a power plant that is there and stuff like that. So there are small power plants. Most of them are defunct now. But one power plant that I visited was Paikara power plant. It's in the Nilgiris, and it's one of the oldest, first set up around like 1932s, and it's still functional. It was another interesting thing because it has multiple views in Nilgiris that you can see this dam and power project. So if you know the local terrain, probably you will go to multiple places and look at this beautiful piece there. So that is, again, if anyone's visiting Nilgiris, should probably take some time, talk to some local people and find out like where are the power projects, and it gives some majestic views, and that is where I would highly recommend.
Absolutely, and I think, a heritage power plant of sorts, right? Because in 1930s or so, it's literally from the time of the Britishers, that old. And I think Faiz and I made a recent trip to Ooty, and we didn't visit the power plant per se, but the Paikara, like you said, there is a dam and there's a beautiful lake as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a good chance for people to visit those places in the vicinity. And if you know of contacts, definitely you can reach out to them and visit the power plant too, as Girish mentioned.
Right, Saif. So the other project that in recent times after I started working was Neyveli. So Neyveli as a place, when generally heard, people just think that it's a thermal power plant and what is that going to do? But like as I would talk about other few plans that I have in mind, but Neyveli again, under the current government or the previous government's plan, they said like everyone who's producing thermal power has to invest in clean technologies as well. So that was a mandate given by the government, and so Neyveli took it upon themselves because they can't do thermal power plant for long. So they said like we have to invest in clean energy, and they started putting solar power plants. Their entire campus now has like a massive solar power project, and they are also investing in solar power plants in Tamil Nadu, outside of Neyveli, and also in other places. So Neyveli power plant, again, if you go there, you can obviously see the thermal power plant, but you also have a solar farm that you can see as you walk towards their office. So this is again accessible because it's part of their community as well, township. So this power plant is a big one in Little Standard, but you can see that when you enter the township. So that is another plant that I would highly see. If people are close to Chennai, probably they can go down to Neyveli as well.
So again, pointing out, Girish, with respect to how easy it is to get access to these power plants, would you just point out about if someone who wants to go and explore the place or know more about it, what would be the best way to do this?
Yes, this is a good point, Faiza, because I have been really fortunate because I get access to these places because most of the meetings and visits happen at these places are happened. But in general, like for windmills, you can definitely see them because it's like really visible at 100-meter height and stuff like that. But the other things, like I mentioned, like in Paikara power projects or something, there are these pockets where people can approach people and take permission. Like, for example, the forest department would allow you to visit a hydro plant if you take some advance permission, or like the solar plants like Neyveli and others. If you reach out to their administration and if you say them you are a group, you want to do a study tour or something like that, they would definitely give you permission because even they want to spread awareness. And most of these organizations also take it as a CSR activity for themselves. So they will claim that they are empowered or spread awareness to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So they will do that. So it just takes time. So when you're planning visit to any of these places, just make sure you reach out to people around these plants and take permission because they will definitely do that. But of course, even sitting at your home, if you want to look at solar plants, the best thing that you can do is go to Google Earth and look at all these plants. You can see like solar really showing up there.
I mean, it also gives you a sense of the scale at which some of these things are done, right? We will obviously be speaking a little bit more about the solar power plants as we move into the conversation, but it gives you some perspective too as to how big these are, and just a bird's eye view if nothing else, right?
Exactly.
So that's brilliant. So you've covered a bunch of them in Tamil Nadu now. Are there more, or where do you want to move on to?
The next state adjacent to Tamil Nadu is Kerala. Again, Kerala, you go there for like some visits, you would see waterfalls and others. So those are things that I did in early on when I was growing up. But interestingly, when I took up my first job, there was this Cochin International Airport who really wanted to adopt solar. So Cochin Airport, people would definitely fly in and fly out. It's the popular airport in Kerala. So they would miss out the fact that it is 100% powered by solar energy. So they
Wow.
produce more solar today than they consume. So they have an agreement. They say like, if we produce more in the morning, we will export it to you, but we will take it back in the evening. So that's the kind of agreement they produce. But I went there in like 2012 when they said like, we are going to put a small plant in our roof of the administrative building. But after that, they said we were going to put solar under the car parking area. And a year later, they said like, we have acquired land close to our airport. We are putting up a big 10 megawatt project. And so that is how Cochin Airport has really scaled up. So that's an interesting project.
Yeah.
You can actually see when you fly to Cochin. The plant is really big, so that's really visible.
Yeah, I believe it's about 40 megawatt that they're planning to get out of this project. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also around 45 acres in and around the area that they've over 46,000 solar panels, I believe. So that's quite significant for relatively small sized airport, right? Compared to other big cities.
Absolutely. As you rightly said, it's a relatively small airport. You would really miss this. But as you rightly said, it's spread over 45 acres. And if they plan to meet their 40 megawatt target, they would probably acquire more area around that. So that's a good initiative considering like it's a small airport. And but yeah, they've started early and they kind of a model thing. Like even globally, Cochin Airport is spoken about and people are just coming there and seeing like, okay, how do we do this? How can we do this? And Kerala is taking a leap in that phase.
This is also the first fully solar powered airport in the world, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
so it's quite cool to take up the initiative to do this.
Yes, I was really excited because like in 2012 they said like we're going to put it in one roof of our building, but 2013 they said we are going to do it. So that growth story is like really
Wow.
phenomenal. So that's a nice experience I had seeing it on ground and seeing it live.
Yeah, I think that's the power of education also. I mean, the state, of course, you can't deny the state is 100% literate.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the other side, people might say that work and progress happens a little slowly, but of course, new projects, I think they embrace it pretty well because recently it also happened to be the first state where India's first floating solar project has come up. So Kerala happens to be that.
Okay, so what exactly are floating solar panels, Girish?
So floating solar is literally putting solar panels on any floating surface like river beds, reservoirs and stuff like that. Rivers are very tough, but reservoirs are where people are considering putting floating because putting panels takes up land area. So they are looking up alternate areas where they can put this. And reservoirs, especially on major thermal power projects, there are like large reservoirs where water has to be stored for all the cooling towers. So this water area is like pretty big. So what people are doing is like, okay, we can put panels there because one, it uses the area. And other thing is like if you put it in lake beds and others. So there is an effect where the evaporation of water is kind of minimized, although these are like preliminary studies. But people claim it's that. And other thing about this technology is also that it cools the ambient around the panel, which again helps it produce more energy.
So there's like 3-4 solutions met in, 3-4 problems handled by one solution. Wonderful.
Yes, of course, we are just getting started there, but other countries are like going really big scale in that, especially in China, but we are getting started with that. So it's another good thing that we are doing.
Okay, great.
And any more experiences or visits within Kerala?
Within Kerala, not much after that. Only these two power plants are coming up. But recently, I hear a lot of buzz around electric vehicles in Kerala as well. But maybe the story is just building up. So we will definitely hear more about electric vehicles in Kerala pretty soon. So that's a good sign there.
Wonderful. Go on next.
So the next state is like, of course, Karnataka, hometown. And
Yes.
Yay.
and I'm sure like we growing up in Bangalore would have definitely gone to Shivana Samudra. We would
Right,
have
of
definitely
course.
seen the places. So that is one place you can definitely see the waterfalls there. But again, if you get permission, you can definitely go see the power plant as well. It's like very restricted. But
I think it used to be pretty accessible as kids because I remember when we had gone when we were pretty young, got access to go inside, and then there was this weird lift that took us all the way down and near the dam and all that. So but now maybe you can give us an insight about how the situation is now. But maybe back then it was a little more open.
Yeah, as you rightly said, back then it was kind of little open, but now I think due to a lot of people coming around, it's kind of restricted. And also because it's getting old, so people just want to preserve that the tech place is kind of structures and everything are safe for a long term. They don't want to have like too many people crowding around the important parts there. And that's the major restriction. But in Karnataka, the biggest thing that I've seen is like people definitely go to Hampi. Hampi is a major tourist destination. But what they definitely miss out is that there's a big power plant just close to Hampi. It's by a private player, Jindal. So they have a big power plant and they have a big community. And as I said earlier, like because of government regulations which mandated like thermal producers had to switch to alternate energy, these kind of players actually invited people like us to kind of evaluate solar in their premises and others. So I happened to go there. Although I didn't do much of sightseeing around Hampi, but I saw the place. And that is another community you should definitely visit. It's a community that you can find access. Once you go to Hampi, that's a really big community township. So people close to Hampi can go there and then from there go to the Tungabhadra reservoir as well. So that's another place that you can visit and you should try and cover because you feel like it's pretty remote from an urban setting like Bangalore, but people, that township, they really are happy living there. So
yeah, and if I'm not wrong, there's also a big steel plant there, I think, right?
yes. So the power plant actually produces most power for the steel production.
I see.
So only a fraction of it is kind of exported, but mostly it's for steel production. It's a captive plant. But as I said, they are switching to alternate sources and they're investing in other technologies like solar. So that's a good sign.
On a side note, Girish, next time you make a visit to the plant, make sure you spare some time for Hampi also because I know the power plants and everything are great for you out of your curiosity and everything, but I promise you Hampi is equally as interesting as some of the stuff. And given that it dates back to a few centuries ago, 14th century or so, I'm sure you'll enjoy some of the beautiful temples and the remains
chariots,
of the Vijayanagara kingdom that are there.
I'll definitely do that because I think one of the reasons I didn't do it in my trips were because I used to go there during like April, May, summer months, and I'm like, no, I just want to.
Oh Lord, yeah.
So, but I'll definitely plan to go.
Yeah, you should definitely plan something out for Hampi. But yeah, go on. Karnataka, like you mentioned, it does have a few significant ones. And the Jindal plant that Girish mentioned is one of them. And are there more?
The other big project that has come up in Karnataka recently is close to Bangalore. In fact, on the way to Tumkur, close to Tumkur. It's called Pavagada. So this project, if it goes all well and if it's completed on time, will happen to be the largest solar power plant in the world. So they plan to have over 2000 megawatts of solar in one place, so in one stretch of area. We would definitely have not heard that Pavagada happens to be one of the most drought prone regions in Karnataka, because you wouldn't expect something that's so close to Bangalore being such a dry region. But incidentally, it happened to be that, and the government identified this spot to kind of take the land and start constructing the power project. So we are nearly halfway there in this power project, but once it's done, it'll be the largest in a single location as on date. So that's another project.
Yeah, as of now, I believe it's about 13,000 acres or 53 square kilometers is what it's covering apparently. And massive project like Girish called out. And you were right that it's apparently the region, Pavgada, it has been hit by drought pretty much every year. So that way also it's like really, really dry and really high temperatures as well.
That was a surprise. So that's another thing. And being in Bangalore, one project that really excited me was going on top of the Chinnaswamy Stadium, the cricket stadium, because people it was during the time when Chris Gayle was playing for Royal Challengers Bangalore, and every time he hit a six, I would wonder like it shouldn't damage the panels there. But yes, one part of the stadium is covered with solar panels, and it again contributes to about 20 to 30% of electricity, and that's a good initiative. But Stadiums, they are getting there, but that's another thing to go on top of the Chinnaswamy Stadium and see, okay, you can put solar panels here. So
definitely, as we wait for Isala Cup Namdu, we hope we get some more solar panels in the meanwhile.
yeah, I think once, probably if we cover the entire stadium with solar panels, Isala Cup Namdu will definitely happen.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. So that was mostly about the plants in Karnataka, I'm assuming, Girish?
Yes, that was mostly about the plants in Karnataka. And just one quick thought about, there are like other urban power plants that are coming up in metros like Bangalore, Chennai, for example, also is waste to energy. So waste segregation is a major theme that is being spoken about in urban cities. And the one key reason is that because we can actually produce energy from waste. So that is one of the reasons where government is emphasizing that we need to segregate waste in our place before handing it over. Because all these urban centers can all have the small plants that convert solid waste into energy. So
yeah, and there are a lot of even now. So I was just reading up with respect to even Bangalore. There are a lot of areas. Koromangala is one such area where they have their own a plant where they go ahead and get energy from
Waste.
Yeah,
Yes.
waste. And I think Truffle's restaurant in Bangalore is 100%, I mean, their kitchen is at least 100% run by the gas that is produced by the plant, if I'm not wrong, and they have it like written up there when you enter. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, more importantly, like segregation is very critical and very crucial. So
yes, Saif. If I could just take an opportunity to, because it's a traveler's podcast and a lot of people travel, and I think as a traveler, one needs to handle waste better as well. So I think everyone should take it upon themselves when they travel also to kind of handle waste better and keep the place clean. I think that's another thing we should follow.
absolutely, I think those are some very valid and really little things, right? You always speak of bringing in change, and it starts with these little things, and it has a multiplier effect when everyone starts doing this. So don't just think that it needs these big capital projects to bring in clean energy and stuff. You can start by doing little
Small
things,
steps, right?
changing little habits, and it'll go a long way. So that was a brilliant note to kind of end our Karnataka leg of the journey. Where next to, Girish?
We'll go head north. We'll go to Maharashtra. Maharashtra is another place, little nice place, and it has both a decent weather throughout the year, if I could say. And one particular place that really caught my attention was Mahabaleshwar. And this time around, I went to that hilly place, and it's really nice. People would, I'm sure, like you have covered this earlier as well in your podcast, but people definitely would go there, buy strawberry jams and come out. But the factory that sets up this manufactures jam in that place actually has put up solar. So that's how.
Really? Okay.
So the company that got manufactures jam, the Mapro, has like a solar garden, and they generate most of their power to manufacture coming from solar. So that's another thing that people who go to Mahabaleshwar next can actually buy jams from this place, can also go and look around and see the solar plant there. So after you pass Mahabaleshwar and you head north towards Mumbai, again, like close to Pune, there are, on this highway, when you take left and when you go around there are like small lakes, small dams there, but for rivers. So that's again a good scenic spot. So as you drive, of course, I would highly encourage anyone to drive from Bangalore to Mumbai, because that's one of the best highways in India at this point in time. That's a good drive to take as well, because you can start right from Bangalore, then go to Chikbalapur and all the wind zones, then hit Mahabaleshwar, go see this, and then go further in Pune and see the small dams around Pune and the Lonavala region, and then hit Mumbai. So that's like a really long drive where you can also see a lot of power plants on the way.
And less carbon footprints compared to flying also. So
Yeah, I mean,
okay, and if you're carpooling and if you're not flying, you are definitely producing less carbon footprints.
Yeah, I'm sure like in a year or two, there'll be a lot of charging stations in this highway. So you can probably take an electric car and...
Right.
When I finally went to Mumbai, I think like Mumbai as a metropolis, you would think there's not many opportunities to put clean energy there. But interestingly, Mumbai Metro, when they designed, they said like, we are going to put solar on all our roofs. So that's what got me there, and happened to be there, look at all the metro stations from the top and see like, okay, we can actually put some solar here, and that was another interesting power plant. So, and that happens to be the trend actually. Most metro stations, Bangalore is also coming up in urban cities, are trying to utilize their space around the stations, depots to put solar, and because all these trains run on electricity and they want to make sure their carbon footprint is low. So that's another trend that's catching up.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. And I also read up that even the Mumbai Metro, right, they're planning to meet about 35% of their total requirement through solar. So I think that's a good thing. At least they start somewhere and eventually build on that. But now, Girish, you were talking about Maharashtra and the Mumbai Metro. Did you spend time at other places as well here?
Mumbai, as a traveler, been to around the Chowpatty and other places around, but not much time, but not much on the power plant, but just as a general traveler. I lived in Pune for quite some time, a few years, so that's again another reason to travel around Maharashtra. But I'm more excited to talk about the next destination, which is Gujarat. So Gujarat also happened to be one of my earliest destinations further from South India. And before Pavagada, there is this project called Charanka, which was again Prime Minister Modi's, when he was a chief minister, he envisioned this plant to be the largest solar plant in India. So at that point, it was the largest solar plant in India in 2012. Just few hours from Ahmedabad. Of course, when you go to Ahmedabad, you should definitely check out the Sabarmati Ashram and other places of interest, the Kite Museum and a lot of places in Ahmedabad. But if you just go north of Ahmedabad, you will see a massive solar plant, and this is quite accessible. The government agencies in Gujarat have been accessible pretty easily, and you can actually have like a tour organized and request them, because most government agencies in Gujarat have solar plants even on their roofs. When you're in Gujarat, if you are interested to know more about clean technology, you can probably reach out to any of these agencies and request permission in advance. They'll be happy to talk to you about how they have developed this. Yeah, I think it's great to know that this is one of the more accessible plans also that way, because like security and access is usually a problem, right? That way, if someone is looking to experience this firsthand, this might be a good option. Yeah, although Charanka is also closer to the border, so that makes it a little difficult at times. But in general, at least they would show you one part of the project or a project around Ahmedabad also. So that's kind of thing. But at some point, sometimes they kind of restrict it to outsiders, so because it's closer to the border. Yeah, but even overall, from a pan-India perspective, I think both Gujarat and Maharashtra, right, perhaps have the highest output in terms of power generated, correct? Yes, Gujarat was the first state in India to be power surplus in generation. So it was mostly because of this. And the other thing, Gujarat also happens, since again it's closer to the delta zone, it also has a good wind potential. So there are a lot of windmills around Rajkot area, the Kutch area. Right. And Kutch area, incidentally, will see the first offshore wind projects. So wind farms installed in the sea is something that's going to come up in Kutch area pretty soon. Oh, wow. So that's another thing that could interest whenever you go to the Kutch festival in December, Jan, probably you should. So that's another thing that you should definitely check out when you're there the next time. The other place that I would highly recommend is, again, people would generally tend to go to Porbandar, the birthplace of Mahatma Gandhi. And I happened to work on a project that was close to that. So that gave me an added incentive to go there. Again, this zone is again a mix of both solar and wind, and a lot of cotton cotton farms there. So incidentally, in a project that I worked on, you did literally see cotton seeds coming up under the soil. So a big challenge when you're working on such projects during monsoon also, because it gets really slushy, and that's a different experience I had in that region in Gujarat. Brilliant. Quite the, I'm also...
A roller coaster in a way.
Yeah, surprised about the range of... there's so many more... There's so many intricacies within just the power generation piece of it. It's actually pretty interesting to kind of listen to all of this from you, and how you've kind of treaded that journey all the way, taken us all the way from the south of India, now almost heading towards the north of India.
Yeah, Saif, as you rightly said, India is a pretty big country and it's diverse in multiple ways. And the energy source also is diverse. So some parts of India receive a lot of wind, some receive a lot of solar, and some have like natural gas with them. So Bharuch, for example, is a gas power plant I've happened to visit. And it actually sources gas from a different region. But because of that, the gas plants, natural gas kind of has lower emission factors compared to the thermal ones. But it's also considered as a thermal and it emits some emissions. But that's another thing. So from there, as you rightly said, Rajasthan. Rajasthan is one place like I really like the place while I visited every time. Because the first moment I landed in Rajasthan, I went straight to Jodhpur. And Jodhpur. And this time I did a lot of sightseeing there because the Mehrangarh Fort and places around that region was a really interesting place that you should definitely check out when you're in Jodhpur, because a lot of solar plants are come up in that region. But of course, Rajasthan, it's not very accessible. But I had an experience of traveling around there. And that's another interesting experience there.
Interesting. And it's good on you that this time you indulged in a little bit of traveling and doing touristy things also. Mehrangarh Fort is a beautiful fort, and especially that it's at a little elevated also, right? So I think it amplifies the beauty of it a notch more as well.
Yeah, especially, and for all the movie buffs, the Batman movie also featured the fort to a small extent. Like we had like 20 seconds of that, and I was like, I was there in that place kind of moment for me. Another place that I went was Falodi, and it's close to Jaisalmer. So people again would definitely go to Jaisalmer and go on the safari and stuff like that. You can see a lot of solar around when you go. And incidentally, it also happened to be the first place in India to clock like 50 degrees Celsius at one stretch in the summer months. So that got it in global headlines, and I was like, okay, I was there in this place, luckily in winter.
Yeah, that's great that you could mix and match a little bit of travel along with your experience while you were here for work. After Rajasthan, where did you head off to, Girish?
After Rajasthan, I did Delhi, but I would like to say I did some travel towards the eastern part of India as well, especially on Odisha. So again, I went there on visits because like thermal plants wanted to put solar, and I was like, okay, I can go visit the places. So happened to be there during the Dasara time. So Cuttack, Bhubaneswar, and this plant was closer to that. So for people outside India, they should definitely go visit Orissa and West Bengal during Dasara because it's definitely vibrant, colorful. That's the best part of this journey, at least, because it was a captive power plant, a thermal plant. So not very interesting, but outside of work, it was a lot colorful. And the Mahanadi River, again, a massive sight, like a kilometer stretch of a bridge. And you see like, okay, this is literally a big river that you cross between Cuttack and Bhubaneswar. So that's another thing that I really liked about that visit in Odisha, although it was pretty short, but still memorable for me.
Absolutely. And Odisha and the Odia culture, right? It's like cultural, so such a rich heritage there. I'm sure you had a good time while away from work also, enjoying the place and the neighboring and the surrounding areas. This one was a thermal plant, you said?
Yes, again, this was a captive plant, so most of the power that was generated in this plant was used to manufacture cement. All those big industries like steel, cement, they require a huge power source, and that's where they invest in captive sources that they build a plant right in their premise and they consume most of the energy that comes from the plant.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And now we've almost touched most of the corners of India, right? We started from the south, we did the west, we did the east. Take us to the north and tell us what you did there.
So right from Odisha, when you go north, you would see UP. Of course, UP continued to have like the most unelectrified portion of India, unelectrified villages for a long, long time. The electrification has been catching up there. Here in different pockets of UP, what caught up was the mini grids, microgrids, and these were small units of solar that kind of with battery and other power sources like husk biogas plant or something would produce energy and provide it to local community. So these are the small pockets of plants that you can see in most parts of UP even now. But of course, the grid power has reached most of the villages in this section. Now, going to Delhi, reaching Delhi, when you land in Delhi, Delhi actually happened to be the first airport to at least put solar on a pilot phase. So Delhi did it in 2011-12. Although Cochin overtook Delhi by a big factor, Delhi actually put a small power plant and they said, like, let's try out something. So that was my first experience there. But Delhi, of course, again, like other metros, has been like Delhi Metro has got solar plants in most of its stations, has captive solar as well. And Delhi, since most of the government agencies are located, and since government has a huge push for solar, like almost all government buildings have been mandated or have solar roofs almost in all places in Delhi. And that's caught up to the NCR region as well. So captive solar roofs is definitely one thing that's caught up in Delhi.
That's brilliant. And I just read up even recently that Delhi Metro, right? I mean, you did mention that it does have a lot of the stations do have like solar panels and stuff, but apparently it is also working towards getting 100% of its electricity through solar powered sources. I mean, right now it's going to be not importing it, but getting it from a different state. But it's still great that it's it's going to be completely solar powered, right? The entire Delhi metro system, given that it's one of the most, I think, developed metro systems in the country. So that's also very good to know.
That's pretty right. So Delhi has signed an agreement with a power producer based in Madhya Pradesh. So this agreement happens like because every power generated is connected to the grid, central grid, so anyone can tap out from the grid. So this is the kind of agreement that's in place. The project that you spoke about is built in Madhya Pradesh, funded by World Bank. So the power that is and it is one of the lowest cost power projects. So the power per kilowatt hour of energy is like pretty low, one of the lowest in the world. So Delhi said we will buy that power for our metro stations here. So that is the kind of deal that they've stuck with the government agency there.
It's brilliant. I think Faiza, this is turning into an educational episode for us, right?
Yeah.
Usually, I mean, usually it's like that. We learn something new about a place, but this time it's much more beyond that also, right? We've been traveling around the country, but we've been picking up different things rather than just the places to see and the things to eat. Faiza, you?
But for the loyal Musafir Stories listener, I'm probably disappointing because I haven't covered food to a large extent.
Oh no. But this is way beyond all of it. It's something that impacts all of us to a very big extent. And it's pretty cool to know, and it's pretty nice to know that even the government and a lot of agencies are working towards building a more sustainable living and a future for all of us.
Yeah, and most importantly, like the building blocks of all of this is individuals and people, right? People like Girish who are doing the work, and you and I also can make a change, like we've been calling out during the podcast, by little things like waste segregation or cutting down on your carbon footprint or not littering around when you visit new places, or even in your home for that matter. So things like that, we can make a difference. We should make a difference, do our bit for the betterment of the future. Now, Girish, we've given 2 cents of advice, but tell us a little bit more about what the future is looking like for India, both in terms of the power plants as well as overall in terms of the goal towards achieving clean energy and being energy efficient.
The future definitely is looking really exciting and promising, Saif, as you mentioned about the different targets that we have set out. So there are a lot of projects that are coming up, and I'm personally really excited to go to newer places like further north from Delhi. For example, the Ladakh region is going to get a few solar projects with battery storage. So that is a region that I'm going to visit sometime in the future. And another key thing that the government is also looking at is like, because the existing power projects in islands like the Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar are run through diesel generators, the government is looking to phase out them by using solar and battery storage so that they get energy completely from renewable sources. So those are the kind of regions that travelers should definitely check out in the future. Apart from this, mobility is another key thing that's catching up in India big time. So cutting carbon emissions in power is just one aspect. Mobility is another thing. And a lot of places are getting electric rickshaws. So the next time a traveler is in Delhi, for example, Delhi NCR region has the highest density of electric rickshaws. So if you are a traveler visiting the capital of Delhi, then you will definitely see a lot of electric rickshaws around that region. So electric rickshaws, autos. So that is the next shift that we are definitely seeing in India. Solar prices came down. Now battery prices are coming down, and mobility is turning greener. So that's another thing anyone who's listening to this should definitely look forward to when they visit India the next time.
Wonderful.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I think thank you for kind of taking us on this brilliant power plant trail, like we're calling it, and taking us around the country and showing us so many different faces of energy, right? Basically, like as I said at the beginning too, as a layman, you don't think about it as much, but thank you for kind of informing us and educating us about the different things that go into it and what the different initiatives are that are positioning us to be in a good place in the future.
Right, yeah. And Girish, why don't you just go ahead and tell our listeners about how one can know more about your work or listen to your podcast, that is Mission Shunya?
Yeah, thanks Faiza and Saif. Thanks for this opportunity. So if anyone's anyone's interested to listen to stuff more on a regular basis, can definitely check out Mission Shunya podcast. Available on all major platforms where you get Musafir Stories, because Saif and Faiza have been like the early podcasters in India. So they have kindly helped other podcasters like me to come up. So wherever you find Musafir Stories, you can go and search for Mission Shunya, and also at Mission Shunya on any social media channel. I have like an episode coming like every fortnight. So I'll talk to people who have had a positive impact, a business leader, or any common man who's kind of living a sustainable life, or any startup. So these are the kind of topics that I cover, and hopefully I'll have more people tuning into this after the episode goes live on Musafir Stories. So thanks for that.
I think you're being too kind to us, but yeah, we thank you so much, Girish. Pleasure for us to be hosting you on the platform, and you gave us a chance to share this broader, bigger message to our listeners too, beyond the message about traveling and exploring India that we share. You kind of mixed both exploring India along with exploring India in a sustainable way. That's the key. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure and such an enjoyable conversation we had with you.
Thank you guys for this opportunity. It was a really pleasure. I never knew I would be so excited talking about this on a platform.
Thank you, Girish. That was yet another great episode of the Musafir Stories. If you guys like the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Audioboom, Savan, Pocket Casts, Castbox, Stitcher, or any other podcasting app available on iOS or Android. Please do leave us a review on iTunes. It goes a long way in the show's discoverability. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We go by the handle The Musafir Stories. Or, if it suits you, you could email us at themusafirstories@gmail.com or visit our website at www.themusafirstories.com for more information. All of these links will be made available in the show notes section of each episode. So here's to more traveling, sharing, and inspiring. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, happy travels and goodbye.